Oh, hell yes, dear listener. Back in the saddle once again for the 12th issue of Bots, Thoughts, and Drops. This is Russ scouting solo until I hit up with Luke this weekend for HSP number 45. Yet another blessed evening here behind the silver microphone once again, dear listener. Glad to be back in the saddle. Thank you so much for your patience. This show is in the business of covering the bottom of the stack. If I may say, after 12 episodes, you know exactly how we do, but we're going to do a little bit different tonight, dear listener. We're not covering bots tonight. We're covering top of the stack business. We got one topic only, and we'll get into it here in just a minute. But in the meantime, let me tell you how to find us first. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at Zero Gravity Med. Send us email at feedback@zero-gravity-media.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and TuneIn, all four under Zero Gravity Media. Please hit that subscribe button, and please leave us a review. Find us on YouTube, look for Zero Gravity Media and our Zero G logo. All right, dear listener, how in the hell have you been? I've missed you. What's going on? What have you been up to? How's the weather in your neck of the woods? Is it hot? Are you getting a lot of rain? Ladies, are you in those sundresses yet? Dear listener, are you in the path of Hurricane Barry right now? If you are, I implore upon you to seek higher ground. Do it now. Don't wait until it's too late. Do it right now. Even though indications are that it's not going to be too bad, but still, just GTFO and take care of yourselves, please, dear listener. Let's see. What's been going on with me? Well, first and foremost, dear listener, I have been eating a shitload of tacos. Breakfast tacos, lunch tacos, dinner tacos about 4 times a week. I've been loving some tacos. I finally realized, I started eating meat about 9 months ago again, right? And so I was like, well, I eat meat now, so I can have some tacos. And then once I took the taco pill, I've just been 24/7 tacos. All right. What else has been going on with me? All right. Well, I'll tell you one thing that just happened. I recorded about 30 minutes of this show and realized about at the 30-minute mark, 45-minute mark, somewhere in there, that I was not recording through the proper microphone, so I had to scrap all of that I had just done, start over. Very black-pilling stuff because I was throwing it down for you, dear listener, but it was a good rehearsal, and this is why. Because I realized that first time when I busted after my audio just simply wasn't working, I have to be more expeditious with Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 12, which I'm going to endeavor to do. All right, so what else has been going on? Had a bit of a health scare, dear listener, for the last about a month or so. But everything is just fine. Everything is peachy. I've been given a clean bill of health. And in fact, the doctor... oh, my God. Okay. Okay, all right. Anyways, the doctor has given me a clean bill of health. Everything is cool. Everything is fine. But it was a bit of a scare. But I've got to tell you about something that just happened right now. Okay, it is 10 o'clock at night. Here's how we roll right here for Bots, Thoughts, and Drops and HSP. So, I sit here with my show prep and my recording program and my microphone, and I keep my windows open, and I just kind of sit here and look. And I look out on the streets at what's going on, right? The passersby, what's happening out there. Okay. All right. So oh my God, I wish I could show this to you right now, dear listener. I am looking at a 60 to 70-year-old ass man on a skateboard. Okay. There is a rail right outside, a handrail going down some steps, right outside my window, right across the street, right? This man just came up, skated up to this rail, did a perfect ollie from the ground and rail slid down this, I want to call it a 10-foot handrail, stuck the landing, skated off, kicked up at his skateboard. Then he motioned to it's a cat. Motioned to this cat here across the street outside of my field of vision and motioned this cat. And this cat is right over here talking to this man right now as if to say, yo, bro, cool ollie, cool rail slide, man. That was badass. Thanks for the entertainment. He's sitting there petting this cat in the middle of the street right now. Dear listener, he might be over 70. I'm serious. He's got a little, little bit beyond shoulder length there. It's all white. I do not see children skate like this, much less this very mature man, if I may say. Oh my God. That was exactly what I needed, dear listener. That was the sign right there. That first take was indeed a bust for a good reason. Oh my goodness. All right, I'm high energy again. That's good stuff. So like I learned from that first take that I need to be a little bit more expeditious with the beginning. And so this little Stories with Uncle Russ segment, I've got a pre-canned story, but since I just told you this one in real time, we're going to save that story. We'll save it for some other time, and I'll lie in the future that it had just happened that previous week and act like it had, even though it happened this week twice, but we'll get to that some other time. But I want to talk to you a little bit about some things that have been going on, right? All right, so I told you I had this medical scare, and that's a fact. I did, and but everything is totally cool. In fact, the doctor said to me, you have all of the indications of being a very stable genius. I was like, well, doctor, thank you. True story. That's actually not true. It's an exaggeration. Us Texans, we do love our stories, right? But I'm going to sit here and in the spirit of Luke's show, the Capitalist Lifestyle Show, I just kind of, dear listener, if you haven't listened to it yet, go listen to it. I just want to talk to you a little bit about, in the style of Luke, just talk to you about living the capitalist lifestyle and some of the traps that can beset you along this trail if you're not careful, right? So it goes like this. I had been pretty much feeling like shit for skipping 2 bots. It was 3 weeks ago at this point in time that I last did bots. We skipped HSP last weekend as well. And, there's been a lot of things going on. I've been extremely busy at work. But 2 Thursdays ago, I was invited to speak at this conference, right? So I went and spoke at it. It went swimmingly, if I may say, which I do. So swimmingly that I was invited to speak again the next day, right? So I actually had to speak twice, but I only had to present on the Thursday, right? On Friday, I just had to kind of red pill about some things real quick and just kind of go talk about stuff. So at least I didn't have to make a PowerPoint presentation or anything like that. Let me tell you, it was not the hard-hitting political commentary to which I was attesting that you get right here on this show, Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 12, and HSP. It was not that. It was business stuff, right? So anyway, the point of the story is this. I missed bots that week because I got home and I had to speak the next day and I was just too bedraggled to do bots, right? And I kind of ended up in this kind of funk, dear listener. I have to admit, I ended up in this negative feedback loop because the simple fact of the matter was that I needed some downtime. That's just the bottom line. And as a person, as an individual, as a capitalist, I do require a lot of downtime, right? I need some time just to stare at the walls. I need time to binge watch shows. I need time to read things. I need time to not speak to people, right? For the most part, I'm fully functional, but every now and then, I just get a little bit overextended and I need this time off, right? Well, in this particular case, what ended up happening is that I was taking this downtime and then all of a sudden I started getting into this funk. And the funk went like this, like, oh my God, I have nothing to say. Oh my God, I speak vocationally. How is it that, what's wrong with me? How do I have nothing to say? Right? This negative feedback loop, right? Where because of the fact that I needed downtime and I did not want to speak, I began to believe that I could not speak, that I had no ideas, that there was nothing going on in this brain, right? Which, dear listener, listen, I love y'all. I hope y'all love this show. This is what I was born to do. This was a total lie. It was a total self-deception about the fact that I just needed a little bit of downtime. Also being beset by internet troubles here and there, that kind of jacked me and Luke up on the 4th of July, to be perfectly honest. I passed up an opportunity to go hang out with my family, which is what I really wanted to do because Luke and I were going to record, and then I had no internet on the July 4th, on July 4th. And then thank God I got internet back just in time, right before Donald Trump's salute to America, which I thought was a grand slam home run, knocked it out of the park. I missed the parade, unfortunately. That was really what I wanted to watch. Luke and I were actually going to play the parade and not live blog it or anything. We were going to do our show, but we were going to comment on what was going on in the parade and the lead up to the salute to America. But anyways, I just really missed my family. And it was very, it's kind of a family reunion. We used to get together back in the day on the 4th of July all the time. And I miss that for the show. for no reason, because then I didn't have internet and I'd already been taking all of this time off, right? So then that doubled the funk right there. So then Saturday came up, this is July the 6th. And Luke and I got on the horn and I was like, man, I've got nothing. There's nothing going on. I have nothing to say. There's nothing, nothing, right? And Luke was busy as well. He was like, well, that's cool. We can take a week off, right? But like really what it was about, dear listener, is that I was just in this negative feedback loop funk, right? Believing that I was incapable of doing what I do. And the simple fact of the matter is that I just needed a little bit of downtime, right? I needed to give myself a foot rub. I needed to binge drink, binge watch Battlestar Galactica, binge stare at the walls, binge silence. This is what I needed, right? But I started beating myself up about the fact that that was what I really, truly needed right then. And it put me into this state where I believed that I had nothing to say. I believed that there was nothing going on in the world. Dear listener, let me tell you something. When you get into a funk like this, in accordance with Luke's Capitalist Lifestyle Show, go back immediately and check your premises. And thankfully, this past Monday, this past week, all of a sudden I started getting antsy again. I started really getting remiss for HSP, especially Bots, Thoughts, and Drops, for not doing what I do. And it brought the fire back a little bit so that I could take a step back and be like, okay, what was this all about? Okay, I had this medical scare that was going on. I spoke at this convention. I needed some time off, some psychological space from everything, right? That's what truly was going on. It wasn't at all about the fact that I don't have anything to say. It wasn't at all about the fact that there was nothing going on to which to attest, to which to speak. It wasn't about any of that at all. It was about the fact that I truly needed that time, and I mistook needing that time for not being capable of functioning in the way that I want to function. When this happens to you, dear listener, don't wait until you get the fire back. Right then, start asking questions. Okay, really, why am I here? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I thinking these things? Why am I suddenly not doing my thing? What is the truth of the matter? In the words of Ayn Rand, check your premises and check them immediately. Don't put it off like I did, right? Don't buy into all that kind of stuff. The simple fact of the matter, had I checked my premises, is like, yo, you know what? I just need some downtime, man. I just need to take some time off, right? And in that case, for me, what I should have been doing was giving myself some foot rubs, eating more tacos, getting up early, staying up late, working out more, whatever it was that I needed to do to snap that cycle, right? Had I checked my premises earlier than before I got the fire to get back in front of this silver microphone tonight and enjoy your presence, and hopefully you're enjoying this show as well, right? Before I did that, before I got that fire, had I just sat down and thought for a moment about what was truly going on, all of that negative feedback loop would have been entirely unnecessary. And so, dear listener, in accordance with the capitalist lifestyle, I implore upon you, when you get into a funk, immediately start asking questions. What's going on? Why am I here? What do I need? What do I need right now? Do I need some tacos? Yeah, I'm going to go get some tacos. Do I need some whiskey? Yeah, okay, I'm going to drink some whiskey. Do I need to work out? Okay, yeah, I'm going to work out. What is it that is going to lift this fog? And check all of those premises and do it quickly. All right, so with that, I'll save that other canned story now that I just told you the story about the Ollie to Rail slide senior citizen. I'm so glad that happened, dear listener. That's exactly what this pimp right here needed. That was so good. All right, let's go get on into the content now that we're already 15 minutes into the show. We're going to talk a little bit tonight about Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, now, why do we want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein? Well, I've been following this story since 2006, and he was finally, quote, sentenced in 2008. But let's just get the basic facts on the ground in the beginning right now. I'm going to take a Daily Caller piece from the lead. It goes thus. Billionaire Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and charged with sex trafficking by federal prosecutors Saturday after his private jet landed at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. Epstein is expected to appear in court on Monday, which did happen, after being charged with one count of sex trafficking and one count of conspiracy to commit sex trafficking which could put him in prison for a maximum of 45 years, which at his age is a life sentence. The arrest comes more than a decade after Epstein accepted a plea deal to avoid federal charges. It also comes just 3 days after a federal appeals court ruled in favor of unsealing documents in a lawsuit against Epstein. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. The suit, filed by Virginia Roberts-Jeffrey, a one-time masseuse for Epstein, accuses Ghislaine Maxwell, remember the name, we're going to get back to her in a minute, Epstein's associate, for allegedly hiring then 15-year-old Jeffrey to give Epstein sexual massages at his Palm Beach property. Quote, "It's been a long time coming. It's been too long coming," attorney David Boyce, who represented Jeffrey and another accuser, told the Daily Beast. I have that piece pulled up right here. The Daily Beast piece is excellent, but we don't quote shitlib media here, but it's an excellent piece. So I'm not going to quote from it, except that the Daily Caller piece is quoting from it. So there's that. Quote, "It is an important step towards getting justice for the many victims of Mr. Epstein's sex trafficking enterprise. We hope that prosecutors will not stop with Mr. Epstein because there were many other people who participated with him and made the sex trafficking possible." The infamous billionaire attracted media attention after he was hit with accusations of paying dozens of underage girls, some as young as 14. It's a lot younger than 14. And we can prove that. For sexual massages in Florida or his Upper East Side mansion between 1999 and 2005, according to the New York Times on Saturday. Court records show that in a 2007 interview, one of the victims said she gave Epstein massages in her underwear and nude for $200 each at the age of 15. All right, we're going to leave that piece right here. We're going to go to a Zero Hedge piece. I'm going to take it halfway down. It goes thus. In an era where #MeToo has toppled powerful men, Epstein's name was largely absent from the national conversation until the Miami Herald, which we're also going to get to here in a minute, published a 3-part series on how his wealth, power, and influence shielded him from federal prosecution. For years, the Daily Beast reported on Epstein's easy jail sentence and soft treatment by the U.S. Attorney General's office, which ultimately scrapped a 53-page indictment against Epstein. That was Alex Acosta that did that scrapped that indictment, and that is a fact. An earlier version of Epstein's plea deal included a 10-year federal sentence before his star-studded lawyers threatened to go to trial in a case prosecutors feared was unwinnable, in part because Epstein's team dredged up dirt on the victims, including social media posts indicating drug use. Gee, wonder why they used drugs. Was it because Epstein gave those drugs to them? Pro tip, yes it was. Employees and associates of Epstein allegedly recruited the girls for Epstein, and some victims also became recruiters themselves. The girls were as young as 14, much younger, and police alleged that Epstein knew they were underage. Epstein's attorney, Martin Weinberg, declined to comment Saturday night. Epstein has been accused of transporting young women on his private jet, the dubbed Lolita Express, to facilitate the abuse, according to his alleged victims. Now, how did all of this come to be? How did it come to be? Well, that is because of the efforts of one Mike Cernovich. Oh man, Mr. Cernovich doing the work this week. Listen, dear listener, I'm not the greatest fan in the world of Mike Cernovich, but I give credit where credit is due, and he did the work. I'm going to take I believe it's Gateway Pundit. Yeah, it's a Gateway Pundit piece. I'm going to take it from the second paragraph. It goes thus. Cernovich has led the charge against Epstein, filing a lawsuit to unseal a large amount of files in the case that were previously withheld from the public. Epstein was arrested on Saturday for allegedly sex trafficking dozens of minors in New York and Florida between 2002 and 2005. The court's opinion in the case stated, quote, on January 19, 2017, Cernovich, an independent blogger and self-described popular political journalist, moved to intervene, seeking to unseal the summary judgment record, and Alan Dershowitz joined his motion. On April 6, 2018, after the case had settled, the Miami Herald moved to intervene and unseal the entire docket. The district court granted each of these motions to intervene, but denied the related request to unseal in orders entered on November 2nd, 2016, May 3rd, 2017, and August 27th, 18, respectively. The renewed scrutiny following Cernovich's lawsuit undoubtedly played a major role in the billionaire's arrest. Mr. Cernovich, way to go. Excellent work, Mike. At Cernovich tweets Tom Fitton himself to him on July 7th, just 4 days ago. Way to go, Mike Cernovich, indeed. Okay. All right, let's just catch up with the facts a little bit more. I hope you're following this so far. So it turns out that he did go to be arraigned in court on Monday, right? And I've got a Zero Hedge piece here. And rather than reading the entire piece, I'm just going to take the updates. Zero Hedge updated the piece with 3 updates after they reported about the arraignment. Update number 1 goes thus. Prosecutors alleged during a Monday morning press conference that they discovered nude photos of underage girls during a raid at Epstein's Manhattan mansion. Okay, so here's how it went down. Here's the basic facts on the ground. He lands in New Jersey on his private jet from France, his humble abode in France. He lands there in New Jersey. The FBI shows up and takes his ass downtown. They also had a search warrant, and they went and searched his property on the Upper East Side, right next to Central Park, right then and there, right? They found a safe in that property. It's a 7-story, 21,000 square foot mansion that has some weird shit in there, if I may say. Really weird shit. I have a piece describing that place, but in the interest of time, I don't think we'll probably get to it tonight. So, dear listener, if you have questions about things that I'm already going to botch this job tonight, I can already promise you that. This story is spiraled absolutely out of control, and there are so many details, we can't do it all in one show. But frankly, the reason that I'm doing this show tonight is this. Nobody in the mainstream media has been talking about this correctly, and I am going to endeavor to do so tonight. Why have they not been talking about this correctly? Because Jeffrey Epstein is a truly powerful oligarch. There are big consequences for speaking about this stuff. And the bigger you are in the media, the higher the consequences are. But Rush Limbaugh, not even close. Dan Bongino, not even close. Respectfully, gentlemen, you entirely missed the mark about what's important about this case this week. Quite respectfully. And I love you both, and I love your work. You just didn't get it done this week. The closest this week to reporting on it accurately was, until tonight, Shannon Bream. She had a guest on her show, and well, I get ahead of myself. Let's not get there just yet. Okay. Also, but her name was what was her name? Conchita Sarnoff, right? We'll get to her piece here in a minute. Okay. All right, and also Tucker Carlson had a guest on tonight, and I'm going to play that audio for you as well. Damn near all of it. And dear listener, I'm leaving out a lot of information right now as I go, okay? Believe this, right? In the interest of time, because I already busted on this show the first time because I was recording through the wrong microphone, I understand that I have to be more expedient with how we go, so I'm going to present to you a mosaic of intelligence, as John Brennan would say. Or no, James Comey, I'm sorry. A mosaic of intelligence. A mosaic upon which you can cast your gaze and draw your own conclusions. But I'm going to talk about the stuff that people really aren't talking about fully. Now look at me. I'm trying to be careful. I'm trying to catch my words, right? Everybody's telling the truth. They're just not talking about it completely. Okay. All right. So back to the Zero Hedge piece. Let's go to update number 2. Let me find it right here. Okay. It goes this way. According to OANN's Jack Posobiec, Epstein is willing to cooperate with the investigation, including giving up the names of those who engaged in sex with underage girls in exchange for a maximum sentence not to exceed 5 years. Okay. Only Jack Posobiec has reported that so far. Okay. I am going to consider that a rumor right now. Okay. We don't know exactly that that's true because of update number 3. Epstein pleaded not guilty during his Monday arraignment. His lawyer asked the judge to set aside any decision on granting bail for 3 days while Epstein remains in custody, and has called the case, quote, essentially a do-over and on, quote, ancient stuff. The hearing has adjourned until Thursday the 11th. Well, there's actually going to be a hearing on Monday now because Jeffrey Epstein has petitioned the court that, Oh my God, I can't stay in this 10 by 10 cell. This is just so beneath my station. I need to be in my 7-story mansion there in New York. I'll wear a wire. I'll wear a GPS foot bracelet. I'll hire security guards to make sure I don't leave. Please, let me get back to my dungeon. Let me get back to this house where all this weird shit is. Let me get back there because I can't live in this cell. Well, guess what, you son of a bitch? You definitely can live in that cell, and you got to stay in that cell. I'm getting triggered already again, and I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. All right. Let's just move on. Okay. All right. I'm going to go to a Gateway Pundit piece, and I'm going to skip all the way to the end of the piece, and it says, here's a black pill. This is definitely a black pill. Okay. And it says, now this was reported on Sunday night. Now this, ... CNN reported on Saturday night that the prosecutor is James Comey's daughter. A team of federal prosecutors from the Southern District of New York, along with some in the Public Corruption Unit, have been assigned to the case. Maureen Comey, the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, is one of the prosecutors, according to a source with knowledge of the case. Maureen Comey, the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, is one of the prosecutors, according to a source with knowledge of the case, tweeted out by Shimon Prokupec. All right. Well, it turns out that nonsense is true. They had a press conference at 11 a.m. ET on Monday morning, 10 a.m. Central Time, and Berman, the head of the SDNY, Donald Trump fired Preet, who is the former head of the SDNY, corrupt as hell. He led the charge against Michael Cohen to get all of Trump's legal records from Michael Cohen, totally throwing out the window attorney-client privilege. They got Michael Cohen. They got all of those records. That's Preet that did that. Well, Donald Trump had his ass fired, and he replaced him with Berman. Okay. Now, I read the indictment as soon as it came out at 9 a.m. on Monday. I read it right then and there. It's 14 pages. Not a great read. Very repetitive. Very inartful compared to other indictments I've read. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But I suggest that you go read it for yourself. It's worth it just to draw a frame around this situation. Dear listener, just go read it. It's worth your time, right? But it's not fun reading, but it's a quick read. Okay. But at this press conference, it turns out that nonsense is true. Maureen Comey is one of the prosecutors. Now, is she one of the lead prosecutors? I seriously doubt it. She just got her law degree in 2013 and then all of a sudden gets this cushy job at the Southern District of New York. Gee, wonder why that happened. Wonder how that happens. Wonder how it is that oligarchs protect their own. Case in point, Maureen Comey. In other words, let me just spell it out for you like this right here. She got that job because of her father, James Comey, being the head of the FBI. That is how she got her cushy job at the SDNY. After 4 years with no experience, do you believe for a moment that she is capable of prosecuting this Jeffrey Epstein case? No. It is definitely black pilling, but with every black pill, there is a white pill, and that is this. Okay. If Maureen Comey spikes the ball in this case, everybody is going to know it, right? If she tries to cover this up, if she tries to get Jeffrey Epstein off, it will be completely transparent, and everybody will know. We're going to know a whole lot more at that point in time, but we're not going to get there until the end of this story. Dear listener, we'll talk about this at the end. Okay. There was an interesting tweet that came out earlier this week. It was from none other than Christine Pelosi, daughter of Nancy Pelosi. It reads this. This Epstein case is horrific and the young women deserve justice. It's quite likely that some of our faves, let me read that again. It is quite likely that some of our faves, meaning our favorite politicians, are implicated, but we must let the facts fall and let the chips fall where they may, whether on Republicans or Democrats. Hashtag we said enough. Hashtag me too. Oh my God. What a stupid ass tweet. But I happen to agree with her. We do have to let the chips fall where they may. And I also happen to agree with her about this, and this is kind of black pilling. Dear listener, while Jeffrey Epstein does definitely favor Democrats, he is a big-time billionaire Democrat donor. We'll get to that here in a little bit. This is also going to sully some Republicans. There is no doubt about it. Listen, I've already told you about NXIVM. I've told you about the names I read involved with NXIVM, right? Okay, so from NXIVM, here we are at the tippy top of the iceberg, as AOC would say. The very tippy top of how this pedophilia culture infiltrates all of the oligarchy in the United States. All of it. Now, not all the oligarchy, right? Like there are some good billionaires like Ross Perot. Oh my God. I cannot believe that. Oh man, that's something I messed up in this second take. In the first take that I did this, I shouted out Ross Perot the first time. Mr. Perot, dear listener, an American patriot, a fantastic American, one of Texas's greatest sons. I hate to age myself and date myself right here, but that was the first vote I ever cast for president was for Perot. And I have always loved him. I've loved his philanthropy. He is a true American patriot, and I miss him so much right now. And he passed away on Tuesday of this week. Mr. Perot, here this is for you, Mr. Perot. I'm taking a sip of whiskey right here. To you, Mr. Perot. Excuse me. So anyway, it's not all billionaires, right? Like Ross Perot is definitely not a pedophile, right? But nonetheless, this pedophile culture seems to infiltrate among billionaires in our oligarchical class here in the United States, right? I wonder why that is. Let's get right here into the last piece, just laying out the basic facts here. This is a Zero Hedge piece. It's called Before the Shit Hits the Fan. Let's revisit Jeffrey Epstein's Little Black Book. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. With the Saturday arrest of Jeffrey Epstein, who is reportedly offering to name elite pedophiles in exchange for leniency, a leaked copy of the billionaire's sex predator's, quote, Little Black Book may provide some insight into some very rich individuals who should be very nervous right about now. The book was smuggled out of Epstein's residence by his former house manager, Alfredo Rodriguez, who was busted trying to sell it in 2009 for $50,000, only to get caught, charged with obstruction of justice, and die in prison after 18 months from a, quote, long illness. I'm so sure. Yeah, must have been a terrible illness. Yeah, suicide to the back of the head. According to an FBI affidavit, Rodriguez described the address book and the information contained within it as, quote, the holy grail, or, quote, the golden nugget to unraveling Epstein's sprawling child sex network. But despite having been subpoenaed for everything he had on his former boss, Rodriguez didn't share it with the FBI or Palm Beach Police Department, detectives investigating Epstein, or detectives investigating Epstein. I butchered that. Sorry about that. Instead, he tried to make a $50,000 score by covertly peddling the Black Book to one of the attorneys launching lawsuits at Epstein on behalf of his victims. Some of the names in the book, get ready for this right here, dear listener. All right. This isn't even a fraction of the names that I have read in connection with NXIVM, right? Listen, NXIVM led right here to Jeffrey Epstein. This is what I would call, what is this case? This is the Rosetta Stone for how all of this pedophilia stuff works. And by the way, dear listener, people always ask why Luke and I have talked about this pedophilia stuff going on in the U.S. since 2000 or since episode number 2 of HSP. I'll tell you why. It's this case that red-pilled me about what's going on with this pedophilia network among the oligarch class here in the United States, right? This is not even a fraction of the names which I have read, but these are the ones that Zero Hedge reports are included in Epstein's, quote, Little Black Book. They go like this. Sit down. Number 1, Ralph Fiennes. Number 2, Alec Baldwin. Number 3, David Blaine. Number 4, Jimmy Buffett. Are you kidding me? Number 5, Courtney Love. Charlie Rose. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Mike Wallace, father of that son of a bitch Chris Wallace who runs the clown show on Fox News Sunday morning every week and F's up presidential debates every time he gets involved with him. I'm no fan of Chris Wallace whatsoever. Let me go on. Barbara Walters, Ehud Barak, Tony Blair, David Koch, famous Koch brother, John Gutfreund, and none other than Prince Andrew himself. And of course, Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. This is true. About 50 of the entries, including those of many of Epstein's suspected victims and accomplices, as well as Trump, Courtney Love, Ehud Barak, Alan Dershowitz, and numerous others, were circled by Rodriguez. In addition to the names above, as well as scores of apparent underage victims in Florida, New Mexico, California, Paris, and the UK, listed under the rubric of, quote, massage, the circled entries include billionaire Leslie Wexner. Now, dear listener, I really want to get into Les Wexner right now. All right, I really do. But unfortunately, we're going to have to table that. If you got questions about it, hit me up at feedback@zero-gravity-media.com. Let me know your questions. I'll tell you all about Les Wexner. We might cover it in HSP number 45 because I think Luke might have some stuff to sound off about all this business. I'll drop the red pills right then. Meanwhile, I'll drop them to you privately. I'll prove what I know with quotes, with articles, and with evidence. Former New Mexico Governor Bruce King, former New Mexico Governor and Democratic presidential hopeful Bill Richardson, Peter Soros, the nephew of George Soros, and former Miss Sweden and socialite New York City doctor Eva Anderson Dubin. Remember the names. We're not going to get into it anymore right now. What we are going to get into right now is a little bit of history, right? About Jeffrey Epstein himself. Who the hell is he? Well, it's interesting, dear listener. We don't really know comprehensively who he is. We know some things about him. We know, first of all, like, get this. I mean, sit down for this as well. He was hired by A.G. Bill Barr's father to teach math at the, God, what's the name of that school? Where's my show? The Dalton School. He was hired to teach math by A.G. Bill Barr's father to teach at the Dalton School in 1972. Now, the Dalton School is a private academy for math and sciences, particularly mathematics, right? Now, Bill Barr's father stepped down from the Dalton School the next year in 1973, and Epstein taught there for one more year. At that point in time, he got into private capital, okay? There are many details in those steps right there, but I want to outline a couple things, just a little bit about Epstein's personality. Not who he is, but what he is, okay? First of all, we know this. He is extremely intelligent. We're talking about 150 to 160 IQ type of person right here, right? He is extremely gregarious. He has social skills, right? Unlike so many geniuses in the world, right? Geniuses tend to be kind of antisocial, not really have the gift of the gab. Jeffrey Epstein is not this type of person. He has a very warm personality, right? He knows how to make you feel welcome. He knows how to entertain you. He knows how to approach you and treat you like a peer, right? And so because of this toxic, narcissistic mix of personality traits, Jeffrey Epstein seems to have felt that he was belonging with the oligarchy of the world, right? He belonged with the pretty people, not down here with the proles, right? He had the skills and the knowledge and the personality and the charm to work the upper crust of the world, okay? But let me not get off on that LARP right now. Let me skip over his financial dealings until when he went to go work for Bear Stearns, the investment bank, right? He worked there until about 1982, and after a very lucrative career, he took off from Bear Stearns to go start up his own private equity company. Now, this is where things get a little bit weird, okay? Now, Rush Limbaugh, Dan Bongino, Tucker Carlson, actually not Tucker Carlson, Tucker didn't touch the third rail, which is this story about Jeffrey Epstein until tonight right here, but Sean Hannity and some others have been asking the intelligent questions. How did this son of a bitch get so rich, right? And this is an intelligent question. Okay, how did Bill Gates get rich? Well, he became a billionaire because of Microsoft. It's very traceable. Same thing with Steve Jobs regarding Apple, right? How did the Rockefellers become billionaires? We know this precisely. How did William Buffett become a billionaire? We know this precisely. There's a reason for this. When you become a billionaire like Ross Perot at EDS, right, you leave a footprint. You leave a trail for how you got all that money. Well, it's really obscure how Jeffrey Epstein got his money. Now, I'm not going to theorize, but I'm going to report upon some theories that are going on the internet and in the alt media with Stefan Molyneux in particular, Mike Cernovich also, Alex Jones and all that kind of stuff. I hate to quote Alex Jones. And by the way, I forgot to say this when I was talking about Cernovich earlier. On Monday morning of this week, dropped an interview between Stefan Molyneux and Mike Cernovich. Just look up Stefan Molyneux on YouTube. You can find it right there. And if you don't want to use YouTube, it is also on BitChute. That's where I went and watched it. These men are old friends. They have a rapport, and it was a fantastic interview. And you can hear Cernovich explain in his own words exactly what it was that went down, how he won this lawsuit to declassify all of these documents from where essentially Jeffrey Epstein was given the biggest sweetheart deal in the world, despite a 53-page indictment written against him by Alex Acosta. I get ahead of myself a little bit. Let's get into the theories about how it is that Jeffrey Epstein got so rich. Okay. Theory number one is this. Okay. He blackmailed politicians into investing in his fund. So it would work like this. Again, remember, he's very gregarious. He's very social. He knows how to make you feel good. He would approach very rich and powerful people and find out who the pedophiles were, right? Invite them down to his Little St. James Pedo Island, Little St. James Island. Remember this, all right? Everybody now on the internet calls it Pedo Island. He would invite them down there and indulge them in their pedophilic proclivities. He would indulge them. Well, he also had cameras set up in the room, so he would sit there and film them in these rape acts, in these child sex acts, right? And then he would not blackmail them. Well, he would blackmail them, right? But instead of saying, all right, you pay me $20 million, I'm going to throw these videos out into the public sphere. No, that's not what he would do. He would say, okay, rich person, rich politician, you invest your money in my fund. You pay me $20 million a year to manage your money. And that's how his private equity fund became so huge. Okay. That's theory number one about how that would work. Okay. These are not my theories. I'm reporting theories from specific people that I'm seeing on the internet. Theory number two is this. He was set up by Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, right? He was set up by them to gain all of this influence and blackmail material over particularly American figures, but not uniquely American. These go all over the world. He had the dirt on all of these pedophiles all over the world to get this compromising material on them in the interest of Mossad, in the interest of Israeli intelligence. He is Jewish, right? He is Jewish. I don't know anything about his ties to Israel. I don't know whether or not he's a Zionist. I don't know this, but I do suspect so because of this. Well, no, let's don't get into that. Let me not get ahead. Okay. One thing we do know for certain, as I just said about the names in the little black book, he is very close to the Clintons, and he tends to be very close to Democrats, right? We just found out yesterday that he donated $22,000 to Chuck Schumer himself. He donates to Democrat politicians right and left. He donates to lots of independent researchers. He donates lots of money all over the place, right? And he seems to have it to spare. He's a multi-billionaire, apparently, right? Okay. So I actually wasn't getting ahead of myself. So let me mention this indictment again. Again, it was rather inartful. Names other than Jeffrey Epstein are not present. Instead, the way the names are reported are things like employee number one, employee number two, employee number three, victim number one, victim number two, victim number three, and so on and so forth, right? It doesn't name names, right? Because you got to protect the victims because they're going to be giving testimony before a grand jury, right? And you don't really want to indict anybody else other than the subject of the indictment, right? When they need to be indicted, they will be named in their own indictment. Hence, employee number one, employee number two. Okay. So who is employee number one? Employee number one seems to be the person who recruited childhood sex slaves for Jeffrey Epstein to rape and sell to other billionaires and politicians and actors and actresses all around the world, right? She seems to be the recruiter, right? And it is only a small guess to name who this person is. That is one Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay. Who is Ghislaine Maxwell? Well, Ghislaine Maxwell was kind of the life partner for Jeffrey Epstein for years. I would say that they hooked up like in the early to mid 70s, right? They broke up at some undisclosed time. We don't know exactly when that happened, but they remained to this day very close. They are seen photographed traveling the world together. She's aboard Lolita Express all the time. She's on Pedo Island all the time. She's seen in the public space with Epstein kind of on the regular. She, like Epstein, also happens to be very close to the Clintons. I've got the show prep about Ghislaine Maxwell pulled up right now. I am looking at the photo of Bill Clinton walking Chelsea down the aisle at her wedding. And there, in about, I'm going to call it row 10, seat number 2, is Ghislaine Maxwell gazing upon Chelsea Clinton, right? There she is, right there at the wedding. She is intimately close with the Clintons. Intimately close, okay? What else do we know about her? She's also very close to Hollywood. And as a matter of fact, she is invited to go to the Oscars every single year, dear listener. This is a true story. I'm not lying. She goes to the Oscars every year. She has a standing invite. And when she goes to the Oscars, she is photographed with every actor, every actress, every producer, every director. Like, it's not just that Ghislaine Maxwell seems to know everybody in Hollywood. Everybody in Hollywood seems to know Ghislaine Maxwell. Ain't that curious? Ain't that curious? She is an environmentalist. She supports numerous environmental causes. She was also convicted in 2008, along with Epstein, for soliciting, quote, child prostitutes. Okay, now listen, I can't remember if I've already talked about that in this episode or if I did in the previous episode. Listen, there's no such thing as a child prostitute, right? Those terms, that's conceptual package dealing. Childhood prostitutes do not exist. Children cannot be prostitutes. A prostitute is a woman or man of age that is willing to consent to selling their body for money in exchange for sexual favors. A child is not capable of that. And this is protected by statutory rape laws in every state within this union. There is no such thing as a child prostitute. But that's what she went downtown for in 2008, was for soliciting child prostitutes. Come on, man. All right. Her name has come up in the last couple years, and it first happened in about 2015. There was a gal by the name of Virginia Roberts-Jeffrey, who we've already mentioned in an article I quoted earlier. Well, she came out in the media, and she said that Ghislaine Maxwell first of all, she said she was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, that she was raped, gave him sexual massages. She was raped by numerous of his cohorts, right? And that she was recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay. Well, then also, I should say this. Ghislaine Maxwell sued her for defamation, tried to put the gag on Virginia Roberts-Jeffrey, and was successful. Sued her for monetary damages and to get all of her testimony stricken out of the media, which did not happen. And I was following it in 2015. I probably have those articles saved somewhere. I'd never be able to find them again, but I probably have them, right? Because, again, I've been following this shit since 2006. I'm serious. I have been. 13 years I've studied this. Okay. All right. So anyways, it turns out that Ghislaine Maxwell was successful in shutting Virginia Roberts-Jeffrey up. She shut her up, right? Okay. Well, then back in April of this year, rather coincidental, actually not coincidental, because of the Miami Herald's reporting and digging into declassifying all of these documents about why it was that Epstein was allowed to basically walk after being a known pedophile and being all but convicted of it, right? Well, he was convicted, but he was given, his sentence was this, dear listener. He had 13 months of incarceration and probation, right? And his 13 months of incarceration went like this right here. He didn't have to go spend hard time in jail. He was allowed to go back to his West Palm Beach mansion for 12 hours a day to, quote, work. And then he would report back to jail, spend 12 hours in jail, go back home. And he got to do that for 6 days a week. He only had to spend 24 hours in jail 1 day a week on Sundays, right? And then probation. Come on, man. Like, this son of a bitch should have lost his life. He should have been given the death penalty. But no, that was his sentence for 13 months. Grueling, isn't it? Grueling. Man, these elites have it made, don't they? Right? All right, so then in April of this year, there was this gal named Maria Farmer. She came out and she was like, yeah, I'm also a victim. I was also recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell. And yeah, I was raped by Jeffrey Epstein hundreds of times. I was paid for it, but I was still raped. Basically, what she said is that the way it worked is that the more you did, the more you got paid, right? And there's a pattern here that is established with Jeffrey Epstein. He looked for young, pretty girls who were kind of poor, right? Who were really wanting to make themselves better, who were completely destitute, maybe abandoned by their parents, foster children and such, right? And he would dangle money in front of their face. And you can't call this child prostitution because there is no such thing as a child prostitute. Even if there is a legal term for child prostitution in Florida, in Texas, there damn sure is not. Even if there is in Florida, listen, let me tell you, morally and logically, there's no such thing as a child prostitute. It doesn't exist, right? And the left literally is making this argument right now like, oh my God, they took money. They got paid for it. They weren't prostitutes. What's the big deal? Oh my God. They're children, you stupid asses. They are children. That's what the big deal is. Man, the morally reprehensible left right now is just despicable. All right. Well, anyways, it turns out that Maria Farmer's testimony really very closely lined up with Virginia Roberts Giuffre's testimony in terms of things like the fact that Jeffrey Epstein had an egg-shaped penis. Sorry to say it, but they both testified to it. They both testified to specific details about Lolita Express, the name of Epstein's Boeing 727, which was called by all of his friends. And it was called the Lolita Express for this reason right here. It was based on the book Lolita. It was dubbed Lolita Express in respects to the book Lolita, written by Vladimir Nabokov, which was the story of a pedophile, right? And so it was called by everybody the Lolita Express, right? Well, Maria Farmer's and Virginia Roberts Giuffre's stories about things that happened on that plane, the way the plane looked, the people who were there, really began to add up quite a bit, right? It was rather remarkable. Now, whether or not Virginia Roberts Giuffre and Maria Farmer know one another, I don't know. But man, these poor girls, I mean, they're like, Virginia Roberts Giuffre is married now. How she can carry on a marriage after being raped continually from the time she was 14 till probably like when she was 18 or 19, I don't know how she can function. My friends who have experienced that can't do it. They can't hold down relationships. Let me just put it that way. They're incapable of that, right? I don't know what's going on with Maria Farmer, and I don't know whether or not they know one another. Maybe they do, right? But whether or not they collaborated to exchange details, I seriously doubt, because too many others have come out and attested to these same details, right? All right, I just took my last sip of coffee. All right. Let's get back to Ghislaine Maxwell right here. All right. The most impressive thing about her is that she had a yacht named after her. It was called the Lady Ghislaine, and that yacht was named for her by her father, one Robert Ghislaine. Now, here's where the story gets really interesting, dear listener. While we're still here talking about history and context, let's talk a little bit about Robert Ghislaine, but let's make it quick because we're approaching an hour already in this show. Tried to be expedient as I could. This is going to be a long show, dear listener. My apologies in advance. We might actually, you know what? We might break this into two different shows. We'll just see how it goes because I've got a bunch of audio to play as well, and it's important. I've got to play it, right? To paint this mosaic of intelligence for you upon which you can project your own thoughts and opinions. Okay. Robert Ghislaine. Who exactly is he? Well, he was a media tycoon, a media magnate. He is lived in England, and he's like the William Randolph Hearst of the UK. William Randolph Hearst was a media media owner in the United States in the early 1900s, right? Well, Robert Ghislaine was like that in the UK from about the late 1950s, maybe middle 1950s, up until his untimely death in the early 1990s, okay? He was a billionaire. At one point in time, he owned more than 400 companies. And I don't think that all of those were media companies. But let me put it this way. In the UK, he owned every bit of media that was not owned by the UK government, meaning the BBC. He owned everything, pretty much, right? And he owned media all around the world. And so that means that he was very knowledgeable. He knew a lot of things. So he was undoubtedly one of the most famous people on the entire planet, or not famous, rather powerful, famous and powerful, right? And we can prove this, okay? The Ghislaines are Jewish, right? And he was very much a Zionist. He was very loyal to Israel, extremely loyal to Israel. And we can prove that at some point in time, we don't know exactly when, but he was recruited by Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, because he was in the media industry. He knew so many things about so many people. And he was only too happy to go serve Israeli intelligence and sell them his secrets for money, obviously, right? Well, he became enormously wealthy. Again, he was a billionaire based just upon the companies he owned, but he made tons of money from Mossad. He was also recruited by the KGB in the 80s. This is a true story, by the Soviets, right? And he got into the intelligence business with the Soviets. So what can we conclude about Robert Maxwell from this? We can conclude that, like, all of a sudden running media wasn't enough for him. He was more into the sexy business of selling intel. That was much more appealing to him than just mere media. Well, he was beset upon hard times, right? He ended up almost going bankrupt, and he ended up approaching the Israeli government and the Soviet government for more money. He wanted more money from them because one thing I didn't mention about Ghislaine Maxwell, she is the youngest of 9 of his children. 9 children. So he had a big family to feed. I mean, to be fair, although his children were all adults at this point in time, but he's trying to set up a dynasty here, and he's fixing to go bankrupt. So he goes to the Israeli government and the Soviet government and says, yo, I need more money, right? Well, somebody, we don't know exactly who, one fateful evening in the early 1990s agreed to meet him on a boat in the Mediterranean Sea. It turns out that Robert Ghislaine was unfortunately suicided. Now, of course, obviously, we don't have any details about exactly how that suicide went down, but what is most widely reported is that he was injected with a nerve agent right behind his right ear. Right there where that nerve is, somebody came up from behind, injected him, killed him immediately, and threw his corpse over the side of that boat into the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, we know that happened. We know that he was sitting there floating. How do we know this? Because the government of Israel sent out a boat and went and fished his dead ass out of the Mediterranean Sea, and they took him back to Israel and gave him the highest honor you can get in all of Israel, the state honors as they exist right now. He was buried on the Mount of Olives, and his corpse rots there to that day. And if you read the New Testament, dear listener, you know exactly what the Mount of Olives is. Our Lord and Savior was on the Mount of Olives numerous times, right? Well, that's where he is right now. That is where the most prominent Israelis are buried. Wonder what it was that made him so deserving of having the highest honor in Israel, looking down upon the city of Jerusalem for all of eternity from the Mount of Olives. All right, we're going to move on a little bit now. Let's catch up a little bit. Let's talk about some things right here. Okay, I'm going to play to you a piece that was it was on Sean Hannity back in the day. This was on January 2nd of 2016, long before Jeffrey Epstein was arrested again. This is Ann Coulter on Sean Hannity. She lays out the facts pretty well. I'm just going to let her explain it. Here it goes right here.
Caribbean.
No, this is a really important story, and I so love that you're pitching it just as a Clinton sex scandal. It is so much bigger than that, and it's appalling that the only place that covered it last night, I watched TV, every station, because I'm done with my book, did I mention that, was Megyn Kelly, God bless her, at least we got it out there. This is not just a Clinton sex scandal. This is the elites getting cozy and covering up and protecting one another. It also involves the Bush administration. It involves Ken Starr. These were the lawyers for Epstein. There's some facts that are absolutely known. There's some that are only allegations right now. But the basic story is this Jeffrey Epstein. There was a major Palm Beach police investigation. A young girl, 15-year-old girl's mother went to the Palm Beach police back in 2006 and said, my daughter has been being paid to have sex with this rich man man in Palm Beach. Palm Beach police stage a very detailed investigation without Epstein's knowledge.
Including going through his garbage.
They go through his garbage. They get taped sworn statements from about a half dozen of the victims, as well as the slightly older girl who was procuring them. The evidence was quite strong, and the same prosecutor that was going after Rush Limbaugh for back pain medication for 2 years wants to just give him a, little ticket, just pay $10, and that's enough for having sex with these underage girls, of course, statutory rape in Florida. The Palm Beach police went mental after they staged this investigation and put all of the evidence together, so they went to the federal government. That's where this case comes involved. The U.S. attorney, who actually was a good guy, but he is described in a letter to whom it may concern that showed up in the...
All right, let me just pause it right here. Who she is talking about right now is one Alex Acosta, the Secretary of Labor under Donald Trump right now. This is a true story. Okay, let me go on with this clip. I'm sorry that it's so long, but it's very important. Let's just lay the case. Here we go.
Daily Beast, just the astonishing attacks that his office came under from Jeffrey Epstein's defense team, including Ken Starr and Alan Dershowitz, Roy Black, all of the legal dream team. The prosecutors' private lives were investigated, and according to the U.S. attorney, they were just pressured, jerked around. Everything was appealed. Eventually, they get Epstein to agree to plead guilty to a state charge, allegedly sentenced to 18 months. In fact, it was 13 months, and for 16 hours a day, he was allowed to go to his mansion in Palm Beach. So he got basically no jail time. He is a registered sex offender. There is a federal law sponsored by, among others, Senator John Kyle, and it says victims are asking for, could we please just have the rights of criminals? They want to be notified as a case is going forward. None of that happened in this case. A secret agreement was struck. The documents are under...
Okay, do you understand what Ann Coulter is saying right here, right? There is a law in place, a victim's law, that says that you are, as a victim of a sex crime or anything else, you are guaranteed the right to be notified by a court when proceedings are going to happen in sentencing, so that you can be present and you can speak your grievance, speak your case, condemn the perpetrator, all of that kind of stuff. That's why this drama always happens in courtrooms. This is protected by law. These victims of Jeffrey Epstein were not given that right. That is what Ann Coulter is describing right now. Sorry this is so long once again, but it's very important. Let's go on.
Seal a no prosecution agreement against not only Epstein, but his lawyers and all these other friends of his.
Now, there are a lot of...
So they are suing under that. They can open this case up again. They could breach the no prosecution agreement. That case has been going on since 2008. That's Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2. Now, Friday, the new news that brings your favorite topic into this, Bill Clinton, is Jane Doe 3 and Jane Doe 4 come forward, and their allegations involve Prince Andrew, Alan Dershowitz, one of them, Jane Doe 3, Alan Dershowitz, the lawyer, and Bill Clinton, of course. So that is how their names have come into this. What I do want to say is this is not just, who knows about the specific allegations? Of course, I'm saying nothing about that. All you can do is read the legal filings. The lawyer bringing this case, one of the main ones, Paul Cassell, is probably the most impressive lawyer in the country. And he is up there with Miguel Estrada. This is not a frivolous case. Some keep following this case. And the fact that this has thus far only been covered on Fox News is shocking. This is not a political case. This is what MSNBC and the rest of the networks have been describing what they thought these fraternity rapes
were. On women.
What they thought the lacrosse rape. This is the elites. The abs that circling the wagons and protecting a pederast. It is a shocking case and that's just the known facts.
Here, let me...
All right, we'll cut off Sean Hannity right there. Do you see how deep this goes? Alan Dershowitz himself was accused by one of these victims of child rape, right? Alan Dershowitz has been very slippery about this so far. Whether or not he's guilty, dear listener, I don't know. I honestly don't know. There's too much chum in the water right now to know exactly what the facts are about this. But listen, if you did not understand what Ann Coulter just said right now, back this up about 4 minutes and listen to that entire clip again in its entirety. This is not me saying this stuff. This is Ann Coulter saying this. And I said it was January 2nd of 2016. No, that's not correct. It was January 2nd of 2015, before Donald Trump even descended the gilded escalator. Even before that. That's when she is speaking to Sean Hannity. Okay. Shocking stuff. All right. Now, I'll be honest, okay? I'm a little bit nervous about playing this kind of stuff for the same reason that Bongino is nervous about talking about it, for the same reason that Rush Limbaugh is talking about it. I just want to report the facts right now. I don't want to make any speculation, right? And so because of this, I'm going to prove my sources unequivocally. I've got another source right here. I've already alluded to this. It was Conchita Sarnoff on Shannon Bream earlier this week. We're going to talk a little bit more about the details of this case. Here it goes right here.
You know, this is my biggest question, and I don't understand why no one is pointing fingers at and actually explaining why Barry Kersher cut the deal that he cut. The onus fell on the state attorney's office.
Barry Kersher is the state prosecutor who was trying this trial in the first place. Okay. What ended up happening is that one Alex Acosta, a federal prosecutor, intervened and kind of raised the stakes on the sentence a little bit, but it was still a sweetheart deal. Okay. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let me let Conchita Sarnoff talk more about this. Sorry to interrupt. Here it goes again.
As you know, after the chief of police, Michael Ritter, whom I spoke to at length for many, many years since I started the investigation back in 2009, Ritter said to me many times, I did not accept Kersher's deal. He wanted to charge him with a misdemeanor, no jail time, no restitution, and no registration as a sex offender. Then he took the case. Ritter takes the case to the feds.
The police chief.
Yes, Michael Ritter, the Palm Beach police chief, takes the case to the feds. That's when Acosta comes in. That's not until 2006. And so Acosta and his team, with Villafana and others, they start to investigate. That takes 2 years. There's a 53-page indictment against Epstein. But what happens? Well, we're getting close to the 2008 presidential campaign. Hillary Clinton is the Democratic shoo-in at the time. President Obama was still not at the forefront. And so I believe, given the information that I have and what I've read, that at the very top of the food chain, they did not want to make, as the Attorney General said to me when I interviewed him, Alberto Gonzalez, they did not want to make a political mess. So they basically tapped Acosta again, which is also why they hired Ken Starr and Jay Lefkowitz, who were the two.
Lots of high-profile names involved in this thing.
Absolutely. They were the two attorneys who negotiated the plea deal, meaning the non-prosecution agreement that was handed to Epstein, which, by the way, was not in order, as Acosta told me, because I have been speaking to Acosta for many years since the original investigation and the original arrest in 2005.
Well, let me ask you this, because tonight President Clinton has spoken out and said, I want to make it clear that there was some travel with him. There was always Secret Service. We had brief meetings. You know, people who are trying to tie the two of them together, just like there were people tonight trying to tie Epstein to President Trump, that those are unfair leaps in logic, the Clintons say.
I have read too much information, and I have spoken to too many people on the inside. I actually attempted to interview Clinton, but he did not agree to do so. And I know from the pilot logs, and these are pilot logs that, were written by different pilots and at different times, that Clinton went. He was a guest of Epstein's 27 times. Now, you tell me. Doug Bands was also on the plane many times. Many of those times, Clinton.
I only went there I only flew on Lolita Express 4 times. I only went there in interest of the Clinton Foundation. You remember him saying that just this past Tuesday. You remember that, right? That can't be memory hold yet. They're trying to memory hold everything, right? Let me continue with this piece. It's important. I'm sorry for the length, but it is important. Here we go.
Had his Secret Service with him, and many times he did not. Almost every time that Clinton's name is on the pilot logs, there are underage girls. There are initials and there are names of many, many girls on that private plane. So you have to ask yourself, and this is what I asked myself, why would anyone, not only a former president, fly on a plane 27 times that did not belong to him?
Okay, so the statement...
All right, let's just go ahead and cut it off right there. Now, let me tell you something else that we can also prove. Dear listener, not only was it Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton was on that plane 6 times. 6. She is in the flight records. Clearly provable. Clearly provable. Okay. All right, so that's kind of laying out the case a little bit more, but it's filling in details that I didn't want to say, quite frankly, right? Right? And they are important details, right? But this gives you a lot more context in terms of the legalities and the cultural context of all of this. Okay. Now, all of this leads us to one Alex Acosta. Okay. Sarnoff just mentioned him. I've mentioned him. Okay. Who exactly is Alex Acosta? Well, he was the federal prosecutor who intervened on Kersher and tried to increase the sentence, so he says, against Jeffrey Epstein back in 2008. Okay? Right now, he is President Donald Trump's Secretary of Labor. Okay? And you know what? Let me just play some more audio. Let's listen to what President Trump has to say about all of this stuff, about Alex Acosta and Jeffrey Epstein. Here it goes right here. This was on a press conference 2 days ago. Here it goes.
In the future? Well, you know, I met Secretary Acosta this first time I know when I made the deal to bring him on into the administration. I can tell you that for 2.5 years he's been just an excellent Secretary of Labor. He's done a fantastic job. Now, part of it is our economy is so good, our unemployment numbers are at record lows. You know, so many good things are happening. But the fact is, he's been a very good Secretary of Labor. What happened 12 or 15 years ago with respect to when he was a U.S. attorney, I think in Miami. Is it Miami?
Yes.
You know, if you go back and look at everybody else's decisions, whether it's a U.S. attorney or an assistant U.S. attorney or a judge, you go back 12 or 15 years ago or 20 years ago and look at their past decisions, I would think you'd probably find that they would wish they maybe did it a different way. I do hear that there were a lot of people involved in that decision, not just him. I can only say this from what I know, and what I do know is that he's been a great, really great Secretary of Labor. The rest of it we'll have to look at. We'll have to look at it very carefully. But you're talking about a long time ago, and again, it was a decision made, I think, not by him, but by a lot of people. So we're going to look at it very carefully. We'll be looking at that very carefully. Okay? Okay, anybody else?
Jeffrey Epstein is a terrific guy.
Well, I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. I mean, people in Palm Beach knew him. He was a fixture in Palm Beach. I had a falling out with him a long time ago. I don't think I've spoken to him for 15 years. I wasn't a fan. I was not, a long time ago. I'd say maybe 15 years. I was not a fan of his. That I can tell you. I was not a fan of his. So I feel very badly, actually, for Secretary Acosta, because I've known him as being somebody that works so hard and has done such a good job. I feel very badly about that whole situation. But we're going to be looking at that and looking at it very closely. We're also going to be signing a big...
All right, we'll cut it off right there. Yeah. So if you didn't understand it the first time, rewind about 2 minutes and listen to the president's comments again about Alexander Acosta and also about Jeffrey Epstein. I was not a fan. Okay. Got a Zero Hedge piece here that dropped 3 days ago. It goes like this. Take it from the lead. Former Palm Beach County State's Attorney, I'm just reading this for emphasis. Former Palm Beach County State's Attorney Barry Krishner states that Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta's account of a 2008 plea arrangement his office cut with pedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein is, quote, completely wrong, and that Acosta should not be allowed to rewrite history, according to a Wednesday statement by Krisher. Sorry, this dropped yesterday. Sorry about that. Earlier in the day, Acosta held a press conference, which I have queued up, but I don't want to play it because it was kind of long and... Anyways, in which he vehemently defended the deal to serve just 13 months in county jail, saying that Krischer would have let Epstein walk otherwise. Simply put, quote, simply put, the Palm Beach State's Attorney's Office was willing to let Epstein walk free. No jail time, nothing, said Acosta. Prosecutors in my former office found this to be completely unacceptable, and we became involved. Not true, says Krischer, who said that Acosta abandoned a 53-page federal indictment, quote, after secret negotiations between Mr. Epstein's lawyers and Mr. Acosta, according to The Hill. This is entirely true. Dear listener, this is entirely true, right? Alexander Acosta got talked out of that 53-page indictment, and that is a fact. Now, is he doing a great job as Secretary of Labor? Yeah, he is. Yeah, we've got all-time low unemployment right now. Yeah, he's doing a good job, right? Nonetheless, he is entirely culpable for letting Jeffrey Epstein go on such a light sentence. He got up there and virtue signaled in his press conference. We wanted him to go to jail. We were so concerned about the victims. Oh my God, we wanted them to go to jail. And so he intervened, right? But he didn't bring that 53-page indictment. And that is a fact. That is a fact. Now, this is problematic for a few reasons, not the least of which is, let me make sure I'm not going to, I am getting ahead of myself. Okay. Let me just read this piece from Zero Hedge. It dropped yesterday. I'm going to take it from the lead. It's called Bombshell. Alex Acosta reportedly claimed Jeffrey Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence. Here it is from the lead. It goes this. Actually, you know what? I read it on Zero Hedge, but it is from Mike Krieger on Liberty Blitzkrieg blog. And I should quote that original source. It's Mike Krieger. It's not Zero Hedge. Is the Epstein case going to cause another problem for confirmation hearings? Acosta had been asked. Okay, this is in Alexander Acosta's confirmation hearing to become the Secretary of Labor. Okay, that's what I'm quoting from right here. And this actually, quote, within a quote, this comes from the Daily Beast. I'm sorry, I'm struggling, dear listeners. So many facts are running through my head right now. Sorry about this. Okay, I'm going to take this quote within a quote right here. Somebody asked Acosta in his confirmation hearing, is the Epstein case going to cause a problem for the confirmation hearing? Acosta had explained breezily, apparently, that back in the day, he had had just one meeting on the Epstein case. He'd cut the non-prosecution deal with one of Epstein's attorneys because he had, quote, been told to back off, that Epstein was above his pay grade. Quote, I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. Boom. This is on the record, dear listener. That is in his confirmation hearing. So despite Alex Acosta's virtue signaling yesterday about we wanted him to go to jail, that's why we intervened, blah, 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 blah. No, he just caught to the fact in his confirmation hearing to become Secretary of Labor that he was told to back off because Jeffrey Epstein belonged to an intelligence agency. Now, let's move on a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about Donald Trump. Where are we at on time right now? Dang, oh man. Dear listener, this is going to be a long show. My apologies. We're already at an hour and a half, and I have about another half hour to go. I'm just going to breeze through it as quickly as I possibly can. Okay. I got to shout out my buddy, Nate, Shady Nate, for this. Nate, thank you so much. Nate sent me this piece on Sunday. We were on the phone talking about this. This is a 2017 Zero Hedge piece. I'm going to take it from the lead. It goes thus. Actually, here's the title. Fusion GPS tried and failed to link Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. Here it is from the lead. Opposition research from Fusion GPS, our old buddies, right? Fusion GPS, who produced the Steele dossier, tried and failed to find evidence of a close relationship between then-candidate Donald Trump and billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, whose Lolita Express private jet ferried powerful clients to his private island, Little St. James. Epstein, who reportedly has an egg-shaped penis, sorry about that, dear listener, it's not me, it's Zero Hedge, pleaded guilty to one count of soliciting prostitution from a Fort Yara. Anyways, we know all this stuff. Okay, all right. While trying to tie Trump to Epstein in an attempt to push the narrative to at least 2 reporters, Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS, the firm behind the unsubstantiated Trump-Russia dossier, found that the Trump-Epstein link appears purely social, according to the Washington Times, which writes, journalist sources told the Washington Times that Fusion founder Glenn Simpson pushed the idea of a close relationship between Mr. Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, adding, quote, Ken Silverstein, the reporter who ultimately wrote the Epstein-Trump report, confirmed to the Times that Fusion had sourced the story. This goes back to 2017, dear listener. That's the point about this. Okay. So this is what I want to say right here. Okay. This is what Rush Limbaugh is arguing right now. This is all about Donald Trump. They're all trying to use this to dirty up Donald Trump. They're trying to link Alex Acosta. They're trying to get him to resign to dirty up Donald Trump. It's only about Trump. Okay. Well, to a certain extent, that's true. We can prove this by what's been going on in social media this week. Dear listener, as of yesterday, on Wednesday, July 10th, okay, it used to be earlier in this week, in the ancient history of earlier this week, you could look up Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton in Google Images, and it would bring up scores of images of Jeffrey Epstein with Bill Clinton aboard Lolita Express, palling around in hot tubs all around the world at probably Little St. James Island, or an island close by, right? Well, as of yesterday, all of this has been scrubbed from the internet entirely. Try it right now. Look up Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton, and look at what you see. You know what you're going to see? You're going to see photos of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. I'm not kidding. They changed the search terms. Just as Luke and I talked about in HSP 44. They absolutely scrubbed the search engine. Absolutely scrubbed it. They are trying to erase all history of Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton. They even edited the Wikipedia page. Wikipedia edited the page to take out all of the references of Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein on both Bill Clinton's Wikipedia page and Jeffrey Epstein's Wikipedia page. Don't believe me? Go look at it for yourself. They're trying to memory hole all of Jeffrey Epstein's involvement with Bill Clinton, with Hillary Clinton, all of it. Ghislaine Maxwell comes next. They haven't gotten there yet, but that cometh next. Believe that. When you see these photos, save them. Copy them to your hard drive. Right there. Copy them. Copy. Save this data. Actually, you don't have to worry about it. 4chan's taking care of it. 8chan's taking care of it. This information is not going to get away. Try though they may. Right? But there is a full court press by Google, Twitter, Facebook to suppress involvement of prominent Democrats to Jeffrey Epstein right now. Why? Because they're trying to tie this to Donald Trump. We already knew this was going to happen. The shills in the comment sections, the shitlib media, all they talk about is, billionaire playboy Jeffrey Epstein was a longtime friend of Donald Trump. You just heard what Donald Trump had to say about Jeffrey Epstein. I just played it for you, dear listener. You heard exactly what he had to say about it, and you know what? I believe him. And there is another fact I have not reported. Jeffrey Epstein, back in 2003, approached the daughter of one of the club members at Mar-a-Lago. Sorry about that. Approached her for sex, right? Well, Donald Trump found out about it and threw his ass out of Mar-a-Lago forever. Banished him from Mar-a-Lago. A fellow West Palm Beach resident threw him out. Yeah, you can't be here anymore. GTFO. That happened factually. So all of this stuff about tying this to Donald Trump is absolute nonsense. But what you see right now is media collusion trying to do exactly so. The New York Times is doing it. The Washington Post is doing it. And not only that, the technocrats of Google, Twitter, Facebook are doing the exact same thing. They're trying to suppress this information. They're trying to memory hole it. It's too late. It's too late. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The cat's out of the bag. And the cat's done been out of the bag since 2006. They're not going to get away with this. But I want to push back a little bit on Rush Limbaugh and a little bit on Dan Bongino. Respectfully, gentlemen, my brethren at arms, you're missing the point. This is not just about Donald Trump. This, dear listener, is the most significant story of our time. This case right now in the Southern District of New York is the most important case of our time. That in itself is more important than what they're trying to do to Donald Trump. Why is this? Because Jeffrey Epstein got away with it the first time. We've already proven how all of that went down, and Coulter just proved it so eloquently exactly what happened. If it happens twice, we have no country anymore. We have no justice system anymore. Our entire country is at stake right now. Listen, man, okay. All right, Bernie Madoff, he stole a bunch of people's money, mostly Democrat rich people's money, and he went downtown for it. So at least that. But John Corzine, billionaire, did the same type of thing, except it was even more sad in the case of John Corzine, right? Prominent Barack Obama politician. He held an office with Barack Obama. I can't recall at the moment. It doesn't matter. Look up John Corzine. And sorry, I can't report it right now. I didn't know I was going to talk about this, right? But what he did was stole farmers' money, working middle-class Americans. He took their entire fortunes and gambled it on the stock market to cover a short in his investment bank. He broke the wall between client banking accounts and investment banking accounts, and he did it. He took clients' money, customers' money, and went and put it in his investment bank to cover shorts, and he lost all of their money. They have no recourse. Do you know what happened to John Corzine? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Why is this? It's because of billionaire privilege. Why has Hillary Clinton not gone downtown right now? She's not quite a billionaire. Actually, she probably is, right? But she's certainly a hundreds of millionaire, right? She's in the protected class. Why has Bill Clinton not gone down for Lolita Express? Why can he get up and lie? I was only on that plane 4 times. I don't know anything about this, when we can prove that he was on that plane 27 times and that he was at Pedo Island, at Little St. James Island, right there in the Virgin Islands. Why is it that he can get up and lie with impunity? Because this is the protected class, laying bare. This is what's at stake, Mr. Limbaugh, Mr. Bongino. This is not about Donald Trump exclusively. It is largely, don't get me wrong. This is about whether or not our justice system survives. It's already in grave, grave danger right now, provenly by Spygate alone, by the fact that the government can spy upon the Trump campaign with impunity. They can spy upon a private citizen, a political rival, and rig a case against him and Mike Flynn and Carter Page and George Papadopoulos. This is the state of our justice system right now. And right now, dear listener, all the marbles are on the table. We know that Jeffrey Epstein should not have gotten away with this the first time. And if he gets away with it again, we've lost everything. We have lost our entire country. And I do not mean to be histrionic about this. These are the simple facts. You're going to do more jail time for not paying a traffic ticket than Jeffrey Epstein did the first time he was convicted in West Palm Beach in 2008. You literally are going to do more jail time than Jeffrey Epstein did. You're going to do harder time downtown, which Jeffrey Epstein didn't have to do. Everything is at stake, and it is not histrionics, and it is not hyperbole. Our country is in grave danger, and it is all come to a head right now in this second arrest of Jeffrey Epstein. That's what's at stake right now. It has a lot to do with Donald Trump, but that's not all that it is. It is our entire country. If we do not have the rule of law, we have the rule of despots or socialists. Our laws are the only thing. Our mutual respect and our mutual abidance of the law is the only thing that separates us from socialism or from dictatorship or from monarchy. That's it. Our republic is only guaranteed safe by the rule of law. And if Jeffrey Epstein gets away with it now, for the second time, after they just recovered these thousands of photos of revenge porn in his safe, in his Upper East Side Manhattan palace, if he gets away with it now, we've lost everything. I'm going to close out this night with one tweet from Stefan Molyneux. He dropped this on the 8th of July, 3 days ago. It says this: I wonder, did Jeffrey Epstein abuse any Jewish girls? Indeed, sir. Indeed. And that right there just about does it for Bots, Thoughts, and Drops number 12. Sorry to end on such a black pill, dear listener. Let me try to white pill us out of this mess right now. But everything is at stake. Make no mistake about it. Everything is on the line right now. And that is why this Jeffrey Epstein case is so important. It's the most important case ever. But meanwhile, thank you so much for listening. I am so happy and honored to be back with you tonight, dear listener. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you are well right now. I hope you have eaten some tacos today. I hope you've given yourself a foot rub. I hope you have watched the birds fly. I hope you have looked up at the stars. I hope you have watched the four-leggeds trot around on the ground and just be happy. Dear listener, eat some tacos. Get some rest. Stay up late. Check your premises. And most of all, dear listener, be blessed. Be well. Be happy. And keep on capitalizing. And I'll be back at you.